Hello and welcome to the news button. Aided and armed by the US and NATO, Ukraine is planning a major counter spring offensive to drive out Russia from occupied areas. The country's military seems to be well motivated and encouraged after it successfully repelled a Russian offensive over the winter in a ferocious warfare. To end the stalemate and reclaim its territory, the Ukrainian defense minister has announced a plan for a major counteroffensive, which may start in the coming weeks. But if we look at the past 1 year of the war, even though Ukraine received enormous funding and all possible weapons from the West, it has been able to do little, very little, in driving out the Russians. Will the new plan for counteroffensive be any different? Will it be able to change the direction of the war? If yes, why? If no, why not? Let's see one by one. Ukraine has been and is still getting flooded with weapons from the West. So much so that if the war stops now, it will leave Ukraine as one of the most powerful militaries in Europe. Whether it is the German Leopard 2 tanks or American Abrams, the Javelins or the US HIMARS or French Caesars, you name it and it's there. And mind you, these are Europe's, nay, the world's best. Going by result, they have been marginally successful so far. Russia's withdrawal from Kherson and across the Dnieper River can be attributed to US HIMARS and their accurate pounding of Russian arms depot and supply lines. Thinking from that perspective, it seems Western arms are winning, but in small measures, against the Russian military. 3 big successful poses have come from Ukraine so far. First, driving out Russia from the Kharkiv region. Second, the surprising big pose by freshly trained and inducted Ukrainians that cleared vast swaths of territory near Donbass, which employed the element of surprise and outnumbering, giving ambush where it was least expected by the enemy. And finally, of course, the withdrawal of Russia from the Kherson region, from the western side to the eastern side of the Dnieper River, after its supply line on the Dnieper River came under frequent bombardment. Although the move under the command of General Armageddon Shorovkin is bitterly criticized in Russian military circles, it was a highly strategic move to save Russian troops from constant humiliation in difficult conditions, where Ukrainians used a natural barrier like a river to their complete advantage. So last 1 year, Ukraine has regained back nearly 3% of the 20% territory Russia has taken, including Crimea, Luhansk and Donetsk, from 2014 till date. The Russian low morale, heavy losses in terms of men and military hardware, a renewed charge with fresh Western trained personnel in big numbers, supported by most modern US and German defense equipment like German Leopard tanks, US HIMARS and fighter jets, can create a very difficult condition for the Russians to hold on to occupied areas. Remember, this will come against the backdrop of intense punitive sanctions that has been crippling Russian defense industries for long. Let's examine why not. Why the planned spring offensive would not be able to do much in driving Russia out. If you look at the conflict keenly, you will see Western training of Ukrainian personnel and fresh recruits is nothing new. It has been going on for the last 1 year. NATO always had overt or covert presence on Ukrainian soil even before the war started. No doubt, American and European weapons are among the best in the world. But let's not forget, Russians are past masters. And at one time, not only rivaled the US, but superseded in some cases the US in terms of weapons development. So Russia is probably the only country which has answer for every US and European weapons. Every time the US declares some new funding or sends some advanced weapon, it gets lot of media attention. Even does some magic in the war field too, not much longer. These weapons become the first targets of Russian. Not just that, after suffering losses for some time, Russian generals are able to adapt faster and develop antidotes to neutralize those killing machines. If you look at the Bayraktar drone attacks, Russians look to be lame duck targets in the first phase of the war. But after the initial buzz, the Bayraktars were heard no more because Russians developed the technique to shoot down this slow-moving, low-altitude. Again, they gave the West-supported and guided Ukrainian brigades a taste of their own medicine. They used the Iranian Shahed kamikaze drones to devastating effect, neutralizing high-value targets and crippling the energy infrastructure in big Ukrainian cities, plunging them into darkness and intense cold through the deadly winter. Same with US HIMARS. After suffering heavily in the first phase, they have managed to find solutions to these long-range, accurate US pounders. The hoopla around HIMARS has died down now. Therefore, the new rivals like German Leopards or jets will meet the same fate as Russia adapts to their warring tactics. Russia is a vast country with enormous resources. Despite the back-breaking sanctions, still its vast defense industry is running full capacity to supply the necessary items required. And it will continue to do so. Despite the big talks about how Ukraine has managed to keep Russia at its bay or what Ukraine can do, let's not forget, it's heavily dependent on Western support. Although Western support for Ukraine has been consistent until now, there is no assurance that it will continue at the same intensity in future. The main financier, the US, is projected to exhaust its military aid budget to Ukraine around September. A senior American defense official has recently referred to the latest provision of artillery rounds and rockets to Ukraine as a last-ditch effort to breach Russian fortifications, tank traps, and minefields. Ukrainian officials must coordinate the actions of artillery, infantry, and the armored vehicles. Ukraine is trying to acquire the weapons and equipment required to breach minefields and trenches at a breakneck speed. However, it is debatable whether these weapons are present in sufficient numbers to cater to Ukraine's needs. Out of a standing army of approximately 260,000 soldiers before Russian invasion occurred, Ukraine has already lost around 1 lakh soldiers in the war. But the number of arms-bearing people in various security services and military branches surged to around 1 million following the invasion. It's still unclear as to how many soldiers Ukraine will field for the spring counteroffensive. The numbers are still unknown, but the weapons that will take part is largely known. Keeping aside the whys and why nots of the efficacy of the spring offensive, let's take stock of what Ukraine has been supplied on record so far. Well, in the last 2 months, the Ukrainian military witnessed an influx of powerful weapons. While Germany delivered 18 Leopard tanks, Poland, Canada and Norway also handed over their pledged Leopard tanks, and the UK sent the British Challenger tanks. Ukraine's defense minister Oleksiy Reznikov has hoped that Western partners will supply at least 2 battalions of the German-made Leopard 2s by April, in addition to 6 to 7 battalions of Leopard 1 with ammunition from a coalition of countries. The Ukrainian military has posted on Twitter the pictures of Challenger, Marder armored vehicles from Germany and Striker and Cougar armored personnel carriers from the US. As per reports from the Pentagon, Ukrainian personnel have recently completed their training on Patriot air defense missiles in the US. So how would the spring offensive stand? Well, military analysts believe that Ukraine would begin its counteroffensive by opening heavy artillery fire along a narrow stretch on the front line, supported by tank advances and bomb disposal squads. Let's wait and watch. Hope you liked the video. Then why wait? Give us a thumbs up and leave your comments in the comment section. Before leaving, do not forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Thank you. Thanks for watching.